What's up, fellas? Obviously, I haven't been able to talk to you since, I guess it was last Thursday. Just a few comments about the game. I would have piped in that night, but I, basically lost communication with the team 90 minutes before kickoff. Sat at the vantage point of a spectator watching on TV until really after the game, and wanted to kind of let it go full circle. And then I knew I had this time with you today. So just in reflection on that, I just give a lot of very proud of our coaches, our players, not just the way they showed up on Saturday, but the way they handled the week. I thought they handled that moment very well. I wasn't surprised, to be honest, but wanted to kind of see it play out real time. And by no means am I happy that we walked out of there without the win. I'm just saying that I thought the preparation and the reflection of that and the performance at the start of the game really reflected on how they prepared. So was excited about that. From a player standpoint, coaches, I thought George McDonald was outstanding. Even his post-game presser, just really impressed. Not surprised, but just, again, another great indication of where we're going, what we're doing. But I did tell our guys last night, I met with the team via Zoom last night, and listen, I love it. You played hard. You were competitive. You did a lot of really good things. The film shows that, but we aren't doing enough good things enough in all three phases to win. And we're not into participation ribbons or anything like that. We're into winning games, and unfortunately weren't able to do that. And I don't want us to feel rewarded or comfortable knowing that we played hard and competed hard. We're physical. That's the standard, not the expectation. So give credit to Iowa. I thought they obviously played a four-quarter game. Were able to win in the end. Definitely some correctable moments for us. Really, the only time I got frustrated that if I felt I was there, it wasn't anything from an X's and O's or plays. It was I could see it getting chippy. I could see it getting volatile. I could see it certain things during the course of the game. I was frustrated when the TV segment would come back and the balls were moved, so I knew there had been a penalty. I didn't know what had kind of transpired. So as a head coach, that's one thing I've really learned in my 13 years is you see things come before they're in front of you. You can feel them coming. And I could see the chippiness happen. I kind of warned my staff on Saturday before Saturday that just keep guarded on their positional groups. I thought John Marinelli and Coach Ryan did an awesome job kind of handling my headset and coaches did as well. But I just felt that it was obvious the refs couldn't handle the moment. Allowed it to get to that level. So I really, that was the only time I overly got frustrated. But it is what it is. We'll move forward. Have an unbelievable opportunity this week for a bunch of seniors that came back, super seniors, a group of seniors that have some decisions to make, and a group of players that have battled extremely hard to get where we're at. So a really special week this week with the trophy game, playing Northwestern. Everything that goes into that. And then obviously Thanksgiving week, I hope to return to the building Friday at the latest. It's still kind of a work in progress. I feel great other than just being in this same damn room all the time. But the play of our guys uplifted me a little bit and got to dive into the film afterwards. And really other than that, special kudos to Isaiah Gay to get recognized this week as a defensive player of the week after a loss. I tell you, in my entire time as a head coach, I texted him earlier today when it was made public that, to see the improvement he's made this year as a player is probably one of the single greatest in-season improvements I've seen as a player, and that's all the credit to him. Obviously, Coach Kane and the defensive coaches to work with him, but he took the challenge. He's taken it and run, and hopefully he's going to play his best game this coming Saturday. So a lot of really good. A lot of players made some really good plays. I thought guys did some really good things. Unfortunately, we did enough things that took away from us winning in the end. But we'll move on and hopefully take a step forward this week. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Coach, I'm curious of the experience of watching a game on TV. Maybe the helplessness of not being able to do anything. Did you pace? Did you stay seated? What was that like for you?
Yeah, we may not get our deposit back on this room, but I would say, I never really I watch TV copy of our opponents because I want to see the live, right? But I very seldom watch our games on TV unless my Jen puts it on late at night or sometime we're back. I never watch us on TV. And I've never watched, obviously, a game as a head coach from the ability to see replay and see what actually happened. That is a very frustrating thing because even when you're on the field, you think you see things, but then to see them happen live, I know, like, if you guys remember, there was a third down play at the end of the game where we threw to Pat Bryant on the sideline over there, and he was acting like he was interfered with, and I saw the end of the play, and he really wasn't interfered with, but he did get grabbed on his route, right? And they grabbed his wrist and then prevented, and that's what he was frustrated with. So that became to life right in front of me, and I'm like, I'm going nuts. My neighbors don't know I'm in here, but they may have been at that point. I think that part is really real. Like, I understand now I'm sure you guys go back and watch the TV copy a lot, even when you're at the game live or you see it up in the booth. That brings a much more detail to the game I'd really not really ever thought about, right? So that experience, Robert, was unique. I really didn't talk to anybody. I didn't communicate with anybody. So I just kind of put the bone down. I told Jen, if you need me, but we talked a couple times. But other than that, I was just kind of going crazy walking around in here, to be quite honest. It went faster than I thought it would. Like, you're just so in tune. You don't take a break. I was pleasantly surprised with the way that the game flowed. I really thought even at the end of game, there's some things I probably would have interjected a little quicker and a little different, but for the most part, it probably played out as though I was right there.
So I've been known to talk to the head coach through the TV before and say, call timeout, no, punt it, that type of thing. Any of that where you, no, don't take a timeout, we need to go for this, anything like that?
There were a couple of those moments, but I wouldn't. Listen. My coach has probably got zoomed out on me last week. I had the coordinators for about 2.5 hours after their last team meeting Friday. We always get together as coordinators and go through mock game, but I had about 6 guys on the Zoom call with me from whatever it was, about 9:15 till about 11:30. I think when I hung up with the guys, just going through details and what was amazing to me is a lot of the things that we went through actually played out in front of us. But I did tell them at the end, listen, we've gone through scenarios. We can't go through every scenario that's going to play out. It's impossible, right? You're going to come up with in-game situations. And the bottom line at the end, you got to go with what you know and what you feel. You can hear me, but you don't got to be me, right? And I thought they did an outstanding job. Tony, Ryan, and Gio kind of collectively putting those 3 together, and then heavily with Kevin upstairs as well, and Ben Miller, special teams, and then Marinelli and Coach Ryan on the sidelines, big time.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about, I guess, how you balance playing an in-state rival trophy game, all that means with recruiting and what have you, and also the mentality that you have that, every game is the same, go 1-0 each week. How do you balance all of those different things?
Alec, as a head coach early in the week, you really set up the path of what the message is going to be, right? And there was a different message last week going into Iowa. Really didn't change when I was in the building or out of the building. The message was you'd been preparing for this moment since last January. We've always known that Northwestern was going to be the last game of this season. We knew it was a trophy game, so there's been things in play before this week gets here to kind of lay the foundation of what that's going to be. Northwestern is in state. We do recruit against them. I would say we probably actually recruit against more other teams in our division and in our conference. I believe Northwestern I always look at a roster makeup when we're playing. You guys well know I look at how many Illinois players. I think they have 23 Illinois players on their roster. So even though they're in Illinois, it's just a different. Ever since I've been recruiting against Northwestern, even when I was at Iowa, when I was at Wisconsin, when I was at Kansas State, when I was at Arkansas, they're from a national standpoint, their academics is a little different. So that's not near as spirited. I think it's more about, they've won the last 6. This is a Big Ten West divisional opponent, and it's the last game of the year, and it's the last opportunity for us to be guaranteed to be all together. That's really the message that it needs to be.
So does that mean that you kind of, I guess, lay the foundation for what the rivalry means and the importance of winning the trophy and all of that in the offseason or in training camp? Or when do you do that? Or do you do that at all, I guess?
I met this team the Sunday after the Sunday after Penn State last year. And I said something in that meeting that led us to this week. So I think it's been set for a long time.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Yep.
Bret, I got two questions. One is about Josh McCray, and I asked this knowing he's 19 years old and they're true freshmen and they're going to hit adversity. But through no fault of his own, do you feel like the flu bug really just stopped the momentum that he had in the middle of the year? And it's just kind of hard to get that back immediately after you go through something like that?
Yeah, you know, Matt, it's great. It was probably a double dip. He did get sick. He called me one day on the phone. I thought I was talking to the Predator. Like he's like literally his voice and everything. You know, it was the first time, but I called home to his aunt and his coaches, and literally every year at that time of the year, he kind of gets sick. So they kind of gave me some great intel about that. But it was the first time he was at home, away from home. You know, Jay Brinkotter, our nutritionist, she kind of made a care package for him because he was going home one day. We'd sent him home to not be in the building. He had a high fever and was sick. And Josh, being Josh, said to Jade, he goes, he thanked Jade and he was very respectful and appreciative. He goes, my auntie always takes care of me. And like, you know, like it's kind of funny to hear and do, but like that's him, right? Like, and that was his comfort zone, right? That was his blanket. That was his that he was looking for. And as a head coach, I know you think it's crazy, right? But believe me, I try to scheme up offense, defense, and special teams plays to help us win games. But sometimes having the right medicine and the right way of thinking and dealing with a player in that moment is everything. We took him to Minnesota, and obviously, you know, after the first or second carry, you could tell he just wasn't quite there. He was cleared, but he wasn't the Josh McCray that we saw, right? And during the bye week, before I got kicked out of the building, he had a run on Wednesday's practice where I was like, hey, Zero's back, right? And played to that moment. So yeah, and then you're right. He's got that freshman. You know, he was in game whatever it was, game 8, 9, 10, and I think that wall had kind of jumped in front of him and gotten on his back. But you know, I know he's got a couple of NIL deals and he's got a little smile on his step. So I think he's feeling pretty good about himself.
My other question, Bret, was about your defensive line and interiorly. I know you're without Rod and you're without Jamal Woods and you're going up against a center that might win the Remington. Just your overall thoughts on how you guys held the fort, at least as well as they could, and maybe saw some emergence out of Burgess at defensive tackle on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought Verdis Brown really did a nice job coming in there. You know, not surprised. I thought our defense did some good things. I didn't like the fact we let them rush for over 170 yards. That's not going to, you know, stats are for people that lose games, right? And you know, we won the yardage total, the passing total, and the yards per play, but we didn't win the scoreboard, right? So that's all that matters. Yeah, I think Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph are playing at a high level. I thought Verdis came in and did some things. Calvin was in there. Tariq Barnes and Kalen Tolson continued just to impress me every outing that we're out there. Not taking anything away from anybody. You know, obviously he's a very good center and you know, quite possibly could win the Remington. But our guys hunkered down. They had their plays. We had ours. Defensively, you know, obviously, you know, to secure Ryan and get that kind of behind us, but to continue to, you know, we lose two really, really good edge players. Owen Carney and Isaiah Gay are phenomenal players that have really bought into the way we're playing things. And, you know, they've never really played like that before. Never asked, you know, and I think both of them will get their opportunity at the next level because of what we've done. But this defense, you know, and Rod Perry, hopefully will be back this week. If everything checks the box, he should be back with us. But really those three guys, for the most part, are the you know, and then some guys that are kind of reserve roles. But you got that entire secondary back. You got linebackers back. You got a group of defensive linemen up front that are back. This is a group returning on paper that could be at an exceptional level for us in the future, and it's really fun to see them grow.
Thanks, Bret. I'm hoping you get out of isolation pretty quick here.
Me too, my friend. Appreciate it.
Hi, Coach. This weekend, you have the opportunity to coach against Pat Fitzgerald again. You did against Wisconsin, now coaching against him at Illinois. Can you speak about your experience coaching against Coach Fitzgerald while he's been at Northwestern and how coaching against him kind of amplifies the rivalry?
Yeah, it amplifies the rivalry because of the great respect that I have for Pat. Obviously, saw him as a player. I saw him evolve in the coaching profession. Would bump into him on the road when I was a young assistant, he and I both, and then we ironically became head coaches in the same year. Dramatically different reasons, right? With the passing of Coach Walker when he was named, but kind of true form, right? Last week, after I was announced that I was obviously out of the game with COVID, the first coach to reach out to me early that next morning was Pat Fitzgerald. I'm not hopefully spilling the beans like Fitz, just, hey, thinking of you and wish me well. Him and actually the two first were him and Kirk, right? Just unbelievable dudes, unbelievable guys. Fitz and I have known each other for a long time. So there's a lot of mutual respect. And I know there was a lot said about this game probably before I came in the building, some comments that were said last year, and I nipped that in the bud. This is a game of respect for what they are, who they are. They're very hard-nosed. Kurt Anderson, their O-line coach, was with me several years at Arkansas. Know a lot of their coaches through previous relationships. So we know we're going to get a Big Ten West, tough, hard-nosed four-quarter football game. That's the last of the regular season for both of us. Our seniors will get recognized. There'll be a lot of emotion before the game, but their seniors will be playing their last game as well. So just a lot of different factors, but all of them out of respect.
Are there any games or stories or moments that stand out to you about your coaching relationship or off-the-field relationship between you and Coach Fitzgerald?
Off the field should probably stay off the field, right? I got to give him some heat. He likes to sing, but I know he's really a Sox guy at heart, right? So I give him a little bit of heat for a double standard once in a while. But a really on the field, just a lot of really good games. I remember they got us one time down there when they just played extremely well. It was a four-quarter game. I think we've had our fair share of opportunities when I'm here, but it's a different game now, right? Now it's Northwestern Illinois, first one here. And I knew when I took the job, right, what that was going to mean between us and our relationship. And I think both of us know how to be professionals, which is awesome.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, can you explain your status this week? Kind of what hurdles do you need to clear to be able to be back with your team?
Yeah, Bob. I think I'm clear Friday for sure. Maybe hopefully before that. Believe me, I wish it could be today. It won't be. Just following all the protocols that have been in place. I want to make sure I'm good too, right? Like I just said, I have questions every day. I really have no symptoms. The only symptoms I've ever really had is just at times I'll get a little overly nasal congestion, and I don't know if that's where I'm staying. It kind of comes and goes during the course of the day, but really it felt fine since the day that I tested positive to where we are now. Give a lot of credit to our medical staff. So when I get in the building, it's going to the hay's going to be in the barn already. By Wednesday afternoon, we don't have school this week, so we kind of adjusted our practices to a little bit later in the day this week. We'll go a little bit later on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. We'll have an early morning practice, and then we have a travel meeting about 11:30. Hopefully I'll be able to be in the building, and then we actually have a Thanksgiving dinner. One of the things I've never done here before is provide a meal for our players that are here, and everybody's away from home. So I think we got about 115 on our roster. 90 of them have RSVP'd. Will eat dinner with us on Thursday afternoon in the stadium. We got a special meal provided for them, and anybody that couldn't make it home. So, but I'm looking forward to a lot of things. But I haven't seen my girls for a long time. So that's what I'm probably looking for more than anything.
Thanks, Coach. Hang in there.
Yep.
Hey, Brett. Well, that must be tough, man. I wanted to ask you about kickoff returns because you'd only had 5 against you before that. How big a role does that play in that happening just because you don't get a lot of reps during the season? And do you think kickoffs are kind of on the way out?
Yeah. Obviously James has been exceptional and special in that regard. I'm actually kind of in a conversation with just the makeup of that. James, it was a pretty clear, nice day. I wasn't there. I was kind of surprised those balls were ending short. I know he had some questions about the balls themselves. So there's some things I'm going through right now, literally with that. But, Friday night, I always kind of give my thoughts on how the game's going to play out and what's going to happen. And I actually started the meeting with Charlie Jones as a punt returner and kick returner. I said, hey, special teams, you've been great all year, but this is I'm going to tell you now, if we're playing well on defense and doing what we're supposed to do, but doing on offense, they're going to turn to this phase of their game to try and change the game. And unfortunately, I wish I wasn't as correct as it was. That was a game-changing moment. And the ability to respond to that, we didn't quite get back on top of right away. The other thing too, we had some guys that got eliminated. Prather Hudson couldn't make the trip last week. Right on the day of the game, Taylon Letsky gets taken out. So those are two of our most significant special teams players. And unfortunately, when we're dealing with a roster that we are right now, when we lose significant players in those roles and those positions, that's very, very difficult to overcome. And it's another great example of how we're building this roster. I couldn't tell you how excited I am. Those guys will be back with us right away now this week. So to kind of get back full strength has been probably one of the more exciting things for this week more than anything. I don't think we're going to have anybody as of right now, and I think we're getting healthier overall in the flu bug and definitely in the COVID world. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. But KOR, you can see it can change the course of a game literally overnight.
And then obviously, I don't know if anybody expects this kind of improvement from one side of the ball in a year like the defense has made, but what do you think has kept the offense from taking at least a small step forward here in recent weeks? Because it feels like the beginning of the game got better, but just overall, what do you think is kind of holding that group back?
Yeah, Jeremy, I think it's kind of a microcosm of our season, right? There's times where we play, 58 minutes out of a 60-minute game very, very well as a group, right, as a team. So our team is made up of positions, units, and then obviously the team. Position groups got to play better consistently, and then units have to play consistently for 4 quarters. And I said this, I actually ironically say this when I hire coaches, right? One of the greatest attributes you can bring to my staff is consistency. I can deal with strengths, I can deal with weaknesses, but I can't deal with this, right? Like I don't know how to handle one day you're here, one day you're there. And the same could be said, I think, offensively. We look really good at times. We do some things that are very, very exciting. I think you take that opening drive. We overcame a 3rd and 1 flinch, right, to go to a 3rd and 6 and execute, which is overcoming penalties, which is not an easy thing to do. I saw BP have a motion when a receiver put up a 1 hand instead of 2 hands. I just saw so many things that get you excited about where we can go. And offensively, that's the number one thing is just consistency. And I'm kind of like everybody else in this world. If I see you do it once, I expect you to do it every time. And that's our responsibility as coaches to hold that standard. So in one word, consistency.
Thanks, Brett.
Hey, Brett, I know you talked a lot about Isaiah Gay, but you had a guy who obviously was benched early on, and for him to turn this corner, it seems like it could have gone the other way for a 5th-year guy who had done things, one way for so long. How did he turn into this kind of stretch of football he's playing?
From a head coach's point of view, I just see the production, I see the effort, I see the trust. There's a lot of times where I had some one-on-one conversations that were fun, and some were very fun, right? I'm a big believer in praising loudly and criticize softly. I definitely pointed his play out both positively and negatively at times in the team meeting environment. And fortunately for us in the last 6 weeks, it's been a lot of positives. I just know this, Isaiah is extremely intelligent. He's extremely gifted athletically. His football IQ awareness and ability to see things and understand it as a really high level. Like he's extremely intelligent football player. And I don't know if he's ever been challenged to put all those things in play together at the same time. There's a couple plays in the Minnesota game where he takes people that are literally probably almost 2.5 times his size and power and literally just plays with extension and annihilates them. And it really speaks volumes about what he is. And it's probably a better question for him. But from a coaching perspective, I know those things don't just happen by chance. You don't luck into playing as well as he's played as many weeks in a row. He's made a conscientious effort to play a certain way, and he's gonna get rewarded for that in a big way.
And we know when you got hired, you were pretty over the moon about the staff that you put together. But to see them get through last week and the way that they did, I would assume at times it felt like a long week. I know the outcome wasn't what you wanted, but how much does that solidify where you were back in December, January when you filled out this staff, and to see them kind of get through that now?
Yeah, well, it is. It's fulfilling, but it's also, I was pissed. Oh, I was pretty pissed Saturday night, and Sunday and today and now. But it's rewarding that I think we're on the right path. It's just also very frustrating that we're not where I want to be yet. But I understand that's why we got to do things, right? So I'm not oblivious that we've made a lot of great strides, and I know what they wanted. I mean, it was hard for them. It was really hard for me. I know they could feel it through my voice. I got, as you can tell, I get emotional at times. I got emotional with them, and I think they felt it. But I think we're on the right path. I know this. Nobody in this conference wants to play us right now. I'd be shocked. You know what I mean? If anybody would like to say, hey, let's start a round robin tournament, who wants to play Illinois right now? Which is great. But at some point, you know, that has to turn into, that's because they know we can beat them, right? Not just play hard and make it tough. We're gonna line up and play. We got to get offensively, get consistently for 4 quarters. We got to get more consistent production and play out of the run game, balance with the passing game. We definitely, as a group, have to eliminate the things that stop you from losing, which is, you know, this last game, we're one of the top, I believe we were top 15 in the country and least penalized, and we had 10 on Saturday, which is unacceptable. And that those are great conversations for me to build upon for the fall or for the future.
Thanks, Bret. Hang in there, man.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Coach. I assume you've been able to watch some Northwestern film from your cave there. But what do you think are some keys to the game for you guys?
Yeah, you know, Doug, I think, you know, unlike last week, right, when we faced, we kind of had to prepare for 2 quarterbacks, but both those quarterbacks were very similar. These are 2 different type quarterbacks, right? They kind of play differently when either one of those quarterbacks is in there. They're very well coached, very, very tough, gritty. They're gonna strain. They love to compete defensively. You know, obviously it's a new coordinator, but a lot of the same principles that Fitz believes in. Just trying to keep the ball in front of you. They're efficient tacklers. They're not going to do things that beat themselves. Special teams, they're opportunistic. They're in every game. You know, even though they may not have as many wins as they want, they've been right there battling and doing what they're asked to do. So I got a lot of respect for what I see on film, and I know we're going to have their best when they come to Champaign on Saturday.
And then it's a senior day at Memorial Stadium. What is that group, you know, as a whole meant for the program? You know, there's so many cool stories, you know, like you think about a guy, you know, my heart goes out to guys that got cut short, right? So like Jake Hansen, who was literally one of the last ones to come back, who appealed the NCAA and was playing as good a football as I saw all of his film from the last year or 2, and he was playing at a high-ass level. And to see him now on the practice field, he was actually one of the few guys I communicated with on game day and stuff, because I know he knew I was sitting at. Mike Epstein, you see Vidarian Lowe play at a level that he's gotten better every week. You see guys like Prather Hudson, who came in and you know left Georgia, right, like where they're at right now, and came and trusted us, and to know the pain that he was going through last week when he couldn't play. You know, there's so many. You look at guys like maybe that don't get significant recognition, but like Sean Coughlin, Alec McCarron, Mike Marquez. You see guys that just have bought into what we've been preaching and selling, and you know, Palcho to move from tackle to guard and do the thing he's been able to do. Blake Jarasati, Doug Kramer, man, like I can just go on. Like Doug Kramer has been like, he's made me better, right? and his parents, Christian Boback, who wasn't even going to think, I think, come back out, but listened to us and has bought into us, has been one of our most consistent special teams guy, just a gritty, freaking awesome kid. They're just, as the case every year, like I always say this, when we're recruiting, right? Like it's crazy. When you're recruiting, one of the things I talk to parents about is senior day, right? How crazy is that? They haven't even committed to you yet sometimes, and they haven't even began their career. And I talk about senior day should be one of the most memorable experiences of your life. Like I promise you, I'm going to be emotional. Everybody should be crying for all the right reasons. You should be crying because it's been so awesome, right? And I've only had these guys for a year, but we've built relationships that I know are going to go way beyond anything that encompasses this year. And so they've meant a lot to hold it together, to have the faith. I think Josh Whitman and the things that he says and does to them, and he knows what we've built with those guys and what we're going to continue in the future. So on Carney, like I BP, like it's just crazy. We don't have enough time.
Thanks, Coach. Good stuff.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Brett.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Brett. Feel better.